Hello and welcome to the Simply PHP Unscripted podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, whether you're listening or watching. Thank you. And if you've read the title of this podcast, you know that we are talking about time management. And this will not be one that we give you hacks or tricks or, a certain process. Raph and I are actually going to be discussing what he does in his life and how you can take the advice and apply it to your certain situation in your life. So whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a web developer, or you're a creative person looking to improve and optimize your time, this will be the episode you want to listen to. So without further ado, let me introduce the man of the hour, Mr. Raph, and he'll be talking, guys, what he hopes you get out of this episode.
Thanks. I'm really hoping that this conversation is going to be creating enough questions for you. And just to stimulate your creativity about what type of system you should be using and how you should be managing your time. So this very open-minded conversation is really about that, and it's going to make you think. Take the time after to stir about it, and hopefully that's going to be serving you very well. Hope you enjoy.
So without further ado, let's get started. Cue the intro. So, Raph.
That's me.
What is it you want to talk to me about today? Because, we've had a couple comments on our YouTube channel, on LinkedIn. They really liked our previous episode, which is all about entrepreneurship, the myths, and what's going on in their mindset in their head. So what is it you want to be talking about today?
Yeah, some of the comments were about time management tips, especially for achievers. We're going to talk time management.
Time management, time performance, probably efficiency.
Yeah.
And what is some of the biggest challenges that you see with entrepreneurs, Fortune 500 CEOs of companies? You Simply PHP, we work with many different businesses from small to large. So you've seen it, right? And you've experienced it yourself.
Many times, there's so many things we could talk about. For example, the misconception of if you work a lot, you do what you do the right things as opposed to doing the right things and achieving a certain amount of things in the best amount of times as possible. So it really depends. The thing with me is that I'm always extremely cautious to not be like, this is what you have to do.
So not like a structure or like a ABC.
Because
process.
I've consumed so much content that were like that, whether it's like the 100 books I've read or the thousands of podcasts I've listened. Most of the time this is what you have to do. And it doesn't take into account the fact that we're all different human beings. We all have different priorities, and it needs to be a little bit more nuanced. Sometimes I nuance it a little bit too much, so it doesn't really give an answer. But I think my goal is more to get someone to ask himself or herself questions, more than telling that person what to do. So whatever we're going to be talking about time management, it's not going to be this is what you have to do. But
it's based
more
on
like
what you've experienced, what works for you.
But exactly, because what works for me, I'm 100% sure it doesn't work for you.
And it's funny because I think I'm a little bit more structured than you. I like having a process. And it's funny because you think of as a creative person or content creator is all over the place. But I find having that structure for me personally helps with my creativity in many ways. Right?
Exactly. And you see, for me, having a structure is, I feel like being in jail.
So this would be good because we're going to be two opposites of the same coin.
No, but exactly. And it just you and I are demonstrating that There's no one size fit all. It's it doesn't work that way. And I've tried so many different systems for time management, so many different solutions, and in writing and softwares, and over the past like maybe 20 years, 15 to 20 years. And there's not one that made me really, really happy. Not one. Some got close, but I had to adapt or not use them all the time. And that is a misconception, I think. If you find something that works for you, if someone find a system and finds him herself very productive this way, you need to give you the freedom to not use it for a few days if you have to, or if you feel to, because your system will end up stressing you to a point of you're going to get overwhelmed and feel too busy, and that's counterproductive. So you need to keep that in mind when you're like, you like structure, perfect. Maybe one day you like, I want to do what I want to do.
I will admit, though, sometimes it's also shot me in the foot where I try to structure too much and be too, like, to the book. Yeah. And then it's actually, caused me more time and more stress, to your point. But I wonder if it's if it's an age gap, like if it's a lack of experience. I'm earlier in my career than you. Would you think like that's a reason?
I doubt. No, not really, because like you're not 30 yet, right? Almost. So
almost an adult.
So I was testing a lot of different things at that time, and I had my agenda, paper, and I'm always being more paper than computerized shit. I like having a fountain pen, high quality with nice ink and nice paper, and take the time to write. I find there's something liberating doing that. But
so many studies to prove like that's such an efficient way to kind of jot
exactly
out your ideas.
Exactly. So I, at the end of my 20s, I was, well, it really lasts a long time. My different experiments I did. But what works for me now, it could be shocking, is no system. I have no system whatsoever now. Mind you, I'm a bit less busy now than I was. But the only time personally, and this is good for me, doesn't mean it's good for a lot of people. I'm fine doing things on the flow, and I just let it go. And I have no system. And I'm going to have a system only when I feel overwhelmed. For me, that's my trigger. That's my sign. That's my cue saying, okay, I feel overwhelmed right now. I have to sit, take 20 minutes, write down what I have, what I feel I have to do, and then structure it and get it done so I can get rid of that feeling, and then keep going the way I like it. And the way I like it is just going with the flow. And like if you go pre-COVID and I would come in at the office, I know probably, okay, look a few emails here and there, and I need to take care of this and that, and then people start driving my day, And if something is not important, I don't do it. If something is important, I put it in priority. There's always something that's going to come in during the day that will become a priority that you did not plan for. Yep. And that's another mistake, that people are doing in their planning. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that subject, because I want to talk about someone being extremely structured, someone having no structure, procrastinations, and not doing something you like, because that's another thing, and we're probably going to talk a little bit about discipline as well. So yeah.
How did you come about this no structure process? And when you say no structure, you mean no pen and paper, no like online system, no phone system, like completely just like you come into the day and you mentally have it all in your head?
Pretty much, except, I mean, I like a lot the rule, the 80-20 rule. And so everyone's familiar with that. If not, that you're going to do 20% of something that's going to give you 80% of the result, roughly. Sometimes it's 70-30 or 15-85. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The rules applies for everything in life. So anything that you know on your fingertips will generate 80% of the result in the day. So really the structure is just to fine tune the last 20%, really. And it creates a lot of stress. And this is the stress thing is something that I was I completely ignored that, and I didn't know it. And I realized it, especially when it came down to dieting. I know it's not related to time management, but here's an example.
Well,
in dieting, you want to be structured. You want to have you want to have your plan. This is what I'm going to eat every single day, and then a few days goes by, and then you start stressing about it, and it becomes counterproductive because the stress generate cortisol, affects your hormones, affect your everything, and then you're not getting the result you're looking for, and eventually you're gonna cheat very badly because you got too stressed. It's the same thing with time management. It's the same thing with anything that you go to 100% on. At some point you don't give yourself the room for doing something else or being a little bit different. So that system for me, that no system for me, came up after trying so many different systems, whether it's the quadrants, just to-dos or the RPM and I did a lot of systems, and none, actually all of them ended up creating stress to me. So I'm like, I don't like stress, so I'm gonna do it the way I like it. And there's this misconception as well as if we talk about business or entrepreneurs, that you need to work 18 hours a day, and that might sound good, but I don't believe in it.
From an employee perspective, looking at you pre-COVID, so before 2020, I remember if I wanted 5 minutes of your time, it was hard to get because you were so involved with everything, right? And as a business owner, I'm sure people can relate that they have to kind of touch everything and be a part of every process and know everything. And going back to the rule, I've noticed the stress level for you and the enjoyment from what you do now, right, is a lot higher post-COVID. Now we're in 2021 because you're working on that 20%.
But exactly. Here's the big difference for me, pre-COVID and post-COVID. And that's another big learning, is that the pre-COVID, I would imagine that I need to do all of those things. I need to help everyone. I need to. You
need to do everything.
Everything.
That's what you felt, right?
Yeah. Now, doing that, if you feel like that, if you feel that you're extremely busy, that's because you are adding on your plate things that you might not need to do. And that's what COVID created for me, because suddenly when the guys went home to start working remotely, and they did not have me as a proximity helper, and they stopped, I realized that I never really had to help them. So yeah, for sure, like one time on two, maybe it was very needed, but they ended up learning to be resourceful, and it freed up a lot of time for me. So that's the other thing. Those 18 hours a day workaholic type of thing, they create the workload for themselves. They're gonna lie to themselves. They're gonna say all kind of reasons why they have to, but it's not true. Most of the time you can find someone, we spoke about it in the last podcast, about the Brian Tracy thing and the garbage bin, and
go check that out.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So for me, I would come in the office, say I have to, and I have to come in at 7 or 6, and I have to leave at 8 p.m. I have to be the first, and I have to leave the last. I did that for years.
I couldn't I couldn't believe that. Yeah, every day from Monday to Friday, you would be the first to leave. Very rarely you would leave at 3. Very, very 3, 4, 5. It was like, oh, I've just had a long day.
I would bring all my meals for the day.
Yeah.
I would have breakfast, lunch, supper here every single day.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks good, but in the end, that was not really needed. So there's this problematic when you want a structure and you are this type of person, you're going to hit a wall eventually.
So it seems to me that you noticed that you were doing everything. And the minute you made that shift, that you realized that, okay, I have employees to do this thing. Yes, I need to be involved, but maybe not as much. Yeah. You freed up more time to do the things that are more important for your business and for your health.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally.
So that's a huge advantage.
And I had to really work. You could ask Tony that. Like, he's gonna tell you, it's been extremely hard for me to give myself the permission early this year to say, you know what, I'm not gonna stay in the office past 2 p.m.
Well, you're here at like 6:30 or 7, so
but it's not long for a business owner. It's not long, mind you. I get home and I'm gonna get to the PC and then I'm gonna reply and answer to some requests. But it just that move of saying I'm gonna leave at 2 p.m. by 2 p.m. sometime even 1, and I know that I have some staff member that's gonna be looking at me leaving. That's been extremely difficult. Extremely difficult.
If anyone really sees you, they know what you do. They know how much work you put in, right? So it's like it's only the perception, but like it's your business too.
Yeah, but we're sidetracking again, but that's fine because we have
this is unscripted. So.
Exactly. The thing is, business owners, they have a responsibility about the image they are projecting to the staff, whether it's showing that you're a solid person, you know what you're doing, that you care, but just like slacking and leaving early and going for party and I don't have a luxury car for that reason, because I'm too concerned that someone would look at it and be like, look at this asshole, he's having this fucking $100,000 car,
But this is a part of time management, because entrepreneurs, business owners, they may feel pressure to be perceived that they need to work 7 to 7.
But what you gonna be doing? That's the thing. Like those 18 hours a day. Like there's a shark in the Shark Tank that I really appreciate, and he said that it doesn't make any sense, especially in the early years of a new business, which I totally understand, that you're not working 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. Now, what you're going to be doing 18 hours a day, unless you're you have this incredible energy to be doing all kind of calls every time, non-stop and no break, and you push your, like, okay, I understand that if you have that.
There's
most people don't
hustle. If you're in the startup stage, I'm sure you can relate. 10 years ago, when you first started Simply PHP, I'm sure you're hustling, putting in those hours.
Oh, we did, but not 100% of the time. That's bullshit. No one does that. But it many times though, like it happens that I had to take care of shit at night, then on Sunday, then on Saturdays, but it was not every single week. That's not true. But we did it, many times, that on Sundays Tony and I, we would be on a call and trying to figure out something. Many times.
Yeah.
This is business owner's life, but you don't need to work 18 hours a day. That's not true.
So let's get back to the first rule you said that made the shift, that you decided, well, you decided a couple things, but one thing you said earlier was the 80-20 rule. So would this be the first tip to someone, an entrepreneur, either startup or large organization, looking at their, who's putting in those 16, 18 hours a day. And it's like, how can I be more efficient with my time?
Yeah.
That's the first step. Look at what 20% of what you do will make the biggest impact.
Well, yeah. In any good systems, the 80-20% is coming into the line. They mention it. Whether, for example, the RPN, the rapid planning method, as an example, when you go on the result and you write like, okay, today I want to create a massive amount of content for next week, or a massive impactful, you go with a very meaningful result. And then you say, okay, what do I need to do? Well, I need to record a podcast with Raph. I need to take some time to look at what I didn't use yet, cut some clips, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Maybe one of these points is not going to be giving you any type of result. Maybe it's going to be so minimum that you're going to put it at the last of your priorities. Mm-hmm. But the main one, because you need content, will be, let's say, recording a podcast. And the second one will be looking at what I didn't use yet. Mm-hmm. Just that is going to take you maybe 2-3 hours, but it's going to fulfill 80% of your schedule. I mean, of the result that you're going to be getting.
Right.
And, and that's why and I said, most of what you have in your mind when you start your day is giving you already 80% of the result. Mm-hmm. So being structured and booking every single moment of your day, it's fine. If you like it, it's fine. You're really focusing on the 20%. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of energy for 20%, know? So I'm not saying not to do it. Mm-hmm. For example, meetings, they need to be scheduled. But do you have to do an hour meeting? Can you do it in 30 minutes? Can you do it in 15 minutes?
That rule to your meetings.
Exactly. Imagine if we take the example of V. We know that she has like a crazy schedule every single day with a lot of meetings.
So many meetings.
I did not check it, and I might be wrong. It could be possible that I look at it and be like, do you really have to spend an hour on a meeting with this line and those two person? Mm-hmm. Could this be shortened to 30 minutes? Could you come in the meeting and say, our outcome for this meeting is this, and I have 30 minutes. Let's go, Mm-hmm.
The thing in my field with being creative, video editing, is that I could take a day to make one video, or I could take a day to make several videos. Yeah. And it depends on how much I put into that video. It doesn't mean it's better, because I could spend 8 hours on a video and it'd only be 1% better.
Right.
And it's the perception of trying to be perfect, trying to be, I'm trying to make this video the best to get the best views, shares, all that stuff, right? In reality, like going back to my world, is that sometimes the quickest things I do with the simplest concepts that took me 5-10 minutes have the biggest impact from our social media. Yeah. So it's crazy, right? How it relates not only to entrepreneurs, but almost developers, people in my field, right? Taking that mindset, which it's a different mindset, and applying it to your schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing requires so much time. Like, the only moment that I had to spend really like hours on something in the past 10 years, maybe, were, let's say, advertising. Because it was physically demanding. I had to spend the time, find the headlines, find the description, organize them. I could have hired someone, to say, okay, here's the headlines and build it. I'm going to cut the time in half, at least, I didn't have to do it, really.
So would that be the second tip then? So the 80-20 rule, 20% of the work that makes 80% of the impact, or if it's 30-70, whatever. Yeah. What's the next thing? Is it that you're hiring people?
Well, you need to let go shit. No, obviously, you need to let go shit and delegate as much as you can. I know. Now we're talking about entrepreneurship and business owners, and not really about let's say an employee or or
Yeah,
or
this is-
someone in his life, in his normal life. I understand that.
Because as an employee, it's tough because I have also a job I have to fulfill,
Yeah.
right? And I have to do those things. But there probably is a way I can structure the beginning of the month to do the most work that will then free up more time to do all the things that I do.
Yeah.
So there is a way to do it, but I think this more applies for entrepreneurs or freelance
Well,
web developers.
but then let's talk about let's say someone like V as an example. Like we mentioned, like she managed different projects, different clients, different developers, a little big schedule. I'm sure there's things that she has that she can probably delegate. And it's hard. It's hard. I've not been good at it, man. I'm not lying. Like it's been extremely hard for me to delegate and say I don't have to do those things. I really don't. Like you need to. Someone needs to sit with and be honest, like cruel honesty with yourself and say what can I let go, and what I have no choice even. If my life would be on the line, I have no choice to take care of that shit. You're going to get some truth there. You know, like you don't have to do everything. For example, I was going to take you as an example on your personal life. Yeah, you like to record shit. You like to create content. You like to edit. Do you really have to do all of that? Probably not. But you enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a choice, and that's fine. That's fine. But I was going to tell you, you saw, like, for example, some freelancers we've used in the past for our content and how much they ended up costing, and was not that much. And let's say that you would say, well, you know what? I'm going to record content all day, and I'm going to give to Joe something to edit, so I'm going to save another day of editing, and that's going to cost me maybe $150. I don't know. I'm throwing a number. Now, two things will happen. Is you might say, well, that's very expensive, and or you might say, well, but I want to do it. In both cases, you're right. It's expensive, but you're going to be recording more. You know, you might actually generate income from that. But it really depends on your priorities. People always have time. They all have different priorities.
Yeah.
When someone say I don't have time, this is not true. The same way as someone say I don't have money. You just have different priorities.
Yep, it's very true. And on the last podcast, we talked about this a little bit, and you brought up something again. I think it was from Brian Tracy, and it was very funny, but it's so true. It's like going back to the 80-20 rule. If one of your jobs is to take the trash to the trash can, is it really you that has to do it? Like, I know you can do it very well. You've been doing it for 10 years. Yeah. But could you hire someone to do that? And 9 times out of 10, yes.
And sometimes it's not even hiring someone. Someone not. Because, you know, you might already have someone around you that can help you with that. For example, I used to take care of every single piece of financial thing in my household. And eventually, you know, my wife's at home. She's taking care of other things, but I want her to learn that thing. And eventually I'm like, would you like to do the insurance claims? And would you like to do those things? Well, I'd like to learn. Great, you know. Would you like to do the homework with my son? And, you know, all of those things. Yeah. And she ended up doing it. And it freed up time for me like crazy.
So this is what I really like about this is, like, yes, we're talking to entrepreneurs, freelancers, whatever, but it applies to your life. Like, everywhere. For me, again, from the last podcast, you were giving me advice about, is there something in your life that you could delegate? Yeah. And one thing that was causing me stress that I noticed was my fitness, that I was spending hours researching in my personal time, the best workouts, the best meal plan. And instead, I just hired someone to do that and help me. and it's been 3 weeks and it's been awesome. It's
Yeah.
only 2 days a week, and now I don't stress about, okay, what's my workout plan for this week? And because I'm not educated in that, it took me hours.
It's funny. I know there's financial commitment to all of those things. But maybe it's 6-7 years ago that I started to learn about that you need many coaches in life. And I'm like, okay, whoa, what do you mean? Hey, bud, what do you mean there? Like, but it's true. Like, you need whether it's a fitness coach or a body or health, nutrition, mental, all of those things. You don't have to focus on your own on it.
Mm-hmm.
The same way as I forgot if it was in GE or Ford. Tony could say it, but or maybe quote it after on the video.
Yep.
That someone was asking very technical question to one of those to basically to that operator,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was in GE, but maybe Ford. And the guy said, "I have all kind of buttons near my desk. I don't have to know those things. I have all these people to know it.
Mm-hmm.
They know that. And
Mhm.
when I need the info, I push one of the button and the person tells me, you know." The same way as I think I had heard or read that Einstein, someone asked if he knew his phone number. And he said, "I have this phone book. I can look at it and figure it out. My name is there. My phone number is there. I won't make room in my mind to remember something that is completely useless," you know? So this applies to everything in life too. Like another example. I always like to make things convenient and as frictionless as possible. So one of my challenge that I had lately was my meal plan, my meal prep. You know, what I would eat during the
Yeah.
day. I want to eat
Takes hours to do it.
I want to eat at least 4 times a day, right? So at some point, I figured out something with my wife where we would barbecue on Sunday, and right away we would have a big bunch of broccoli and cauliflower and asparagus and Brussels sprout all ready. And the only thing I had to do was to take a little bit of each, put some spice, and eat this 2-3 times a day. Problem that I didn't think about is that I got fed up 2 weeks later because it's always the same thing. So at some point I asked my trainer, "Do you know any?" Because I also tried last year to hire someone that would come home and cook some, few meals, and we would freeze them for a while. And but same thing happened. I had like 3-4 different meals, and after like 2-3 months of eating the same thing over and over and over again, you're like, okay, come on, It's convenient. It's not that expensive, really not. So I asked my trainer lately, "Do you know any service that I can actually have good meals?" And he said, "Yeah, I've used this one." So I've looked this one, and they had very good in appearance, at least very good meals. Very flexible system, very simple. I can, on over the weekend, I can order all my meals for a full week, my wife and I, and I get delivery on Friday afternoon, and I'm hungry. I'm due for a meal. I just before this podcast, I had a meal here.
Mm-hmm.
I take it, I warm it up, and it's a good meal. And every week they change.
Mm-hmm.
So I solve and they end up being $10 a meal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not expensive. McDonald's costs much more than that, right?
Yeah.
So I solved my problem about the meal prep, and I solved the redundancy problem. And it's all healthy, and the macronutrients are very well split, pretty much the same way as I used to do. So I'm like, I'm happy with that. So I removed this from my schedule. I don't have to take care of it. So it's a long detour to talk about that. You need to remove the friction that you have in your daily life, because just that is going to probably free up 25% of your schedule.
I really like that. Like, remove the friction. And we're talking about fitness, but we're really not. We're talking about time management and what we are doing to free up more time so we can do the things we love and to do things that are impactful. Spending time with my girlfriend is important to me. And if I spend hours looking at YouTube videos about workouts, that's eating into our time. And then now I'm freeing up more time to do that. Free up time to spend with my daughter. Free up time to focus on our business. Right? So you're right. It's so the 80-20 rule. That's number one. Really focus on what it is what is priority in my life and business, and what can I delegate. Number two, let go of the perception. Let go of people, looking at you saying, I need to work 18 hours or else, they don't think I'm working hard enough.
You need to think outside the box. That's a thing that is extremely hard. You really have to think outside the box and say, what can I really, really change that's going to have a big impact in my life? And there's always a lot of things. For example, I forgot the name of this concept, but they did an experiment at some point where they would tell students, to a group of students, for example, you have until next week, end of next week, to do this homework or this exam, and the other group you have until next month to do this exam. Both cases, they waited last minute. So there's this mental blockness, let's call it, of when you have to do it, but you won't do it until it's due to be done. And that's a problem. So that's one thing you need to change, is whenever you can get rid of something, just get rid of it. But I forgot the second point, but it's going to come back. But basically, there's so many things you can change in your, like, for example, the second point I was going to say is, how many times, or you want to have a shock in your life, like a drastic shock, find an app that tells you how much time you spend on each app per day.
Oh God, I don't want to.
Exactly. Because that exists, and I've looked at it.
Yeah.
And it's shocking. You're going to spend 3-4 hours minimum a day on your phone. That's minimum. Now, that's excluding how much time are you going to spend on TV? How much time are you going to spend on YouTube? How much time? So, and I've heard someone saying something very interesting lately that may give you a different perception of what is time. When someone say you make me losing time, or I'm wasting time, or I don't have time, or blah, 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 well, replace time with life. You're wasting my life. Or you're wasting me life. Lifetime. I don't know if it translates very well, but
no, it does. It does. You're because we all have a certain amount of time on this earth.
Yeah, so and we all use time, but time is meaningless for most people. Now use life. So every day I'm using 3 hours of life to spend on my phone.
Thanks for spending half an hour of life with me.
Exactly. Thank you. No, but that's true. And at the end of the day, you're going to be looking at the amount of times that you waste, and you might like it. I'm not judging that. Okay. I'm more talking about the people that would say, I don't have the time.
Yeah, we've all said those famous words.
I don't have time.
Said those things.
And when I realized that, that's when I ended up stopping watching TV, pretty much. My biggest issue nowadays is my phone. I need to stay away from my phone because it ended up being just automatic. I don't even control it. I'm on the couch doing nothing, listening to music, and I'm going to pull my phone.
Yeah.
And what I really wanted to do is just chill and reflect.
Yeah.
The phone is a reflect killer. It's terrible. So
it's a distraction, right? So would you say then, we've said three major kind of tips and advice. So would the fourth one be audit?
Yeah.
Audit, like, or review?
But you see, already I'm stressing just at looking at those points. I don't like structure. I don't like those First, do this. Second, do that. Third, all of those points might not even work for you. All of them. I mean, maybe one of them is not working for you. But things to help you that you should be looking at is how much time you spend on your phone, how much time you spend on TV, how much time you spend gaming, how much time you spend on YouTube. If you have a time issue. Now, if you like it, for example, I decided last year that I would restart gaming. I've been a big gamer. I've been a competitor like 25 years ago. It seems very far, but at the time, that's when games really started to be like the esport really started to come up. And I did compete, and I did spend like over 40 hours a week gaming. Now, it took me a lot of times to give myself this permission, but I did. And I did not beat me up when I would spend 12, 14 hours in one day just gaming. I wanted to do it.
Love, right?
I wanted to do it.
To your point, it's like, for me, that's going out, taking photos or shooting a video. And I like video games too, but I'd rather go out and do that.
But
right?
that's it.
But that's me.
Exactly. And now these days I'm not doing it, but I spend days, in my new backyard, and
which is very nice, by the way.
Thank you.
We'll have to show
you.
some. We'll slide some photos so they can see.
Yeah. So the thing to be, there's so many things, man. There's so many things to talk in this podcast, because it doesn't matter if you spend time on TV, on phone, on YouTube, and all of this. If and only if, one, that's what you want to do, and two, it doesn't, it's not counterproductive to you. It doesn't affect you negatively. It doesn't become a pathology. Like if it has any type of negativity towards you, then that's not a hobby anymore. It becomes a pathology. And so you need to be aware of that. So if you're in the state of I don't have the time, but you're doing all of that, it's questionable.
Yeah, you have to look yourself in the mirror and really see, like I said, either track it with an app or just have an honest conversation with yourself. Like I know I watched 3 episodes, an hour each.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours.
Yeah.
Do I really need to? Now, maybe I need to watch 1 just to relax, but do I need to watch 3?
And all of this should be done as your reward. You should not allow yourself to spend all of that time if you had a crappy day and you haven't been productive. And like, if you're an achiever, if you're someone that really want to get shit done, well, get shit done first, then reward yourself, and it's totally fine. I saw a quote lately from Mike Tyson, that discipline is doing the things you hate, but doing it as if you love it. And we spoke a lot about discipline, you and I, and Vision was very close to that. But this little twist of saying do it as if you love it kind of worked for me. I even applied it this morning in my workout, and I was just a beast. And mind you, I texted you yesterday night that I wasn't sure if that I could be recording this, because yesterday I felt terrible. And I said, you know what? No, I need to put the effort. And I got my magnesium. I went to bed early. I focused on sleeping. I woke up. I said, I need to go to train, And there we go. And then I feel great. So the only thing about that quote that I would change is that, because he says discipline is doing the things you hate, but doing it in a way that as if you love it. I would add that it has to be something that serves you.
Yeah.
Because I can say, well, I don't know, like, I hate breaking my arm, but breaking my arm right now is not called discipline. It doesn't serve me. It's just stupid. Right?
Yeah.
So which brings another point that I wanted to talk about is the things you do daily. Do you like doing them, or do you like the job you're in? because someone might be struggling and getting shit done, but doesn't like the position whatsoever. You can have all kind of system you want. You're not a lazy person. You're procrastinating not because you're a lazy person, just because you don't like it, or you are apprehending the consequences or the results or the feelings.
Gary V talks a lot about that, and he's a pretty efficient dude, having 7-minute meetings, running multiple businesses, and he only does the things that he loves and then delegates the rest, right? And so, take it from him as well. But he's a prime example.
Exactly. When Brian Tracy said that you should focus on the 3 things that you bring the most value to your business, and I'm going to make a parenthesis here. Business can mean your family, can mean your own life, can mean your health, can mean it's your things. But I find that in that quote and in that system, what misses is what you like, what you love, what makes you happy. Yeah. Because when I heard this the first time, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I list my top 3 things, I did not like them whatsoever. I said I'm great at them, but I hate them to death. And I said, but that's what Brian said, right? That's why, I said initially at the beginning of this podcast, I said I like to nuance things, and I don't want to tell someone this is what you have to do, because everyone's different. And I took that advice as this is the absolute truth. That's what I have to follow, right? So I'm going to do the top 3 things that I'm really good at, but I hate.
What I like about all the suggestions that we've talked about is that it's not like a time, it's not like a hack. Yeah. You see all these, I was looking at YouTube videos when I was being prepared for this podcast, and there's these hacks and tricks and apps and this, but everything we're talking about is all mindset oriented, because time is all the perception of what, and then what you use it with, what you 100%. Fill it with, right? As an employee, yes, I have 8 hours a day, but there's things I can do in that day that will, from a career perspective, might move me up, the ladder, or get better at my craft and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So there's ways that you can apply all these mindset.
Well, let's talk a little bit about something else then. Because if we let's take, for example, a developer, right? In general, they start the day and they have code to write, and generally they know what they have to work on. One of our dev asked the other day, if I had any advice to give about time management. Well, many.
Yeah, we can tell.
About dev.
Yeah.
You don't, first, if you like what you're doing, you're already 80% of the job done.
You don't have to like every aspect of it, right? You can like majority of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the rest is optimization, distractions. So you won't optimize your time. You will remove distractions from the time you work on those things. If you feel that you can focus for an hour and a half nonstop, then do it. Do those sprints. Say, okay, I'm going to be blocking an hour and a half or an hour. For me, it's more like 45 minute-ish. But let's say it's an hour. Say, okay, from 1 to 2, I'm going to be shutting down every single distraction that I have on my computer. I'm going to tell my significant other to not disturb me. And I'm going to be focusing 200% of my energy on it. Just that, you improve your productivity massively. And that's just what I would do. And there's nothing more of a killer than having Slack notifications and phone notifications and notifications of everything and emails and blah, blah, blah. It breaks the flow. And especially in programming, you need your mind to reflect and I'm there, I'm going to code this and this. Boom. Oh, okay, so I was there. And you restart every time. And I remember reading a study saying that it takes about, I think it was 20 or 30 minutes when you get disrupted, it takes 20 to 30 minutes
To
to
get
get back into
it.
your flow. So how many times do you get disturbed during a day? Exactly.
Probably a lot.
So
Yeah.
that's the young people today are not lazy. They're just full of distractions.
Yeah, there's a lot.
My
There's a lot.
daughter, take my daughter as an example. She's 20. She's at college. And she already asked me many times for time management and help. And I ended up creating a system with her according to her personality. She never followed it. Never. Why? Because when she's doing an homework, TV's on, computer's on, phone's next to her. Like,
My daughter too. She's like, she loves listening to music, and I guess with some people, like music can help them focus and stuff. But
yeah.
she's singing, and but I know that she's enjoying doing it, and that's fine for her, right?
Yeah.
I don't like say, oh, don't listen to it, because if it gets it done and she does it right, then I'm happy. But if she wanted to be more efficient when she's older, because she's only 12, then that's a different story. That limiting the distractions of music and TikTok and YouTube, all the things going on at once, it makes sense.
Give me, for example, one thing or 1, 2, 3 things that you have to do. They kind of overwhelm you. You know they're going to take time, but you need to get them done soon. But they need to be tasks, like specific tasks. Like give me 1 or 2 or 3.
I can give you like 10, but
but that you feel stressed because you need to get them done.
the only time I feel stressed when I need to get them done is on a time crunch. If I'm like, so I'm always a week ahead.
Okay, let me rephrase. Not stress about that task, but more like you feel that it's going to be long and you don't really want to do it, like because it's going to be long. You know that type of task that you say, I need to get it done, but it's so long and it's depressive and I don't want to start it because it's never going to end.
Okay, this is a good one. Organizing like my storage, my files, like that is something that will limit my efficiency. And
you mean in personally or in your work?
Both, because like my personal computer that I use is also like getting to a full level, and I have a system where I can put off files, but when I first started doing this, I didn't have that system in place.
I love so much what just happened. And this is a thing I've learned a long time ago, and you that's going to be an extremely good example, okay? I asked you for 1 or whatever, you said 1. But that one thing ended up being super big, right?
It's huge.
Because that's what we do, especially the things that we procrastinate because they're not so exciting to do, right? Okay?
No.
But it's true.
Yeah.
So you said organize my file and something else. Storage file.
Then it doesn't allow me to edit as fast as I can.
Exactly. So you said that. Then you mentioned personally and business. And you said a couple more things. But basically...
You got the major.
Yeah, I was seeing it building up in your system as you were explaining it. Now, the problem here, if in this whole podcast there would be one advice that I would say you need to, that would be that. Every time you have something like this that seems so big, you need to chunk it down into many subtasks. Because that big thing is like saying, okay, darling, we need to plan vacation. And okay, so I need to go to the agency. Then after that, I need to go to verify if I need any vaccine. Then I'm going to need some stuff and I need a new suitcase. Then I need this and I need that. All of this is
overwhelming.
Prepping the vacation.
Yeah.
It's a huge point. It's going to take you a day to do, but you don't have to do them all in the same day. So what you said, storage, file, personal, business. Okay. Which one's the most important at the moment? Is it the personal or the business one? And don't say business because I'm there.
No, it's the business because I spend the most time
Perfect.
with that, right? My personal, I could survive.
So you're saying about storage. You mentioned storage. Anything you need to organize besides storage?
Like files. So I edit, right, a lot of videos, and they are huge files. And although I have a very big computer, it builds up fast because we film every week. So yeah, storing and making sure that I eliminate things that I don't need.
Okay. What would be the best case scenario? Like what would be the dream? Like if it's done tomorrow, it looks like, how does it look?
I would 50% of the storage would be, if my dream is just because how I have it now is like 50% is where I need to be. 50% of the storage is like prime, because there's certain things I just can't, and I know it's around 50% that I need to get to.
Yeah.
And I'm probably around 75, right? Which is 100% is not good. I need to be 50%.
Okay, we have on Slack this quote running every morning, and one of them is I think it's Abraham Lincoln that said it, and that quote passed this week, saying that if he had 3 days to chop down a tree, he would spend 2 days and a half sharpening his axe. Just that quote, if you would apply it to that scenario about business or storage, okay, say, okay, I need to organize it. How? Like, imagine it. First, you plan it on paper, and honestly, this you can do it in 10 minutes. So, well, the content that I never used, I'm gonna put them in this type of folder, and the content I've used, I'm gonna upload them there, and this. Okay, perfect, cool. Let's say that you have your plan, and don't think about the file transfer time and the upload and the download and the slowness or whatever. Although here we have a gigabit fiber, but doesn't matter, right? Now, if you say, I have no distraction whatsoever, how long would you need to organize that, to apply your plan?
Oof, it's hard to say. So not taking into account like the time to actually upload and stuff, probably a couple hours to go through.
Stop right there. 2 hours.
That's a couple.
2 fucking hours. Kyler, you've been procrastinating something that would bring you a lot of value for 2 hours of your focus time. That's how fucked up we are. That's what I meant. I like your example for that reason. Now, you just said 2 hours here. Probably you're going to spend the same time or less at home doing your own things. But maybe within 3 to 4 hours, you've done it all, you know? And the only thing you do, like the same way we were talking about lighting here, you could say, well, I'm going to come Friday and I'm not doing any content on Friday. I'm going to be up to date, but I'm going to be doing lighting tests for an hour, 2 hours, and I'm going to spend another 2 hours doing my file sorting that I will have planned before. And then at the end of Friday, I'm good. I'm happy. I'm going for a long weekend.
Be a good day. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that is one of the problem of, especially when we procrastinate things, is because we're overwhelmed with what we're telling ourselves. And really you can chunk it down into a few tasks. And the funny thing is, whenever you take each task and you put time next to it, you end up looking at your big ass list and be like, it's only 4 hours. 4 hours that I've been procrastinating for over a month. It's ridiculous. So when we said at the beginning that I have no system, I only create that system when I feel that I have too much. Then I'm going to sit, build my list, and on each point, I'm going to take how long, I'm going to write how long it's going to take me, honestly. So if one of them is I need to look and order missing computer parts for staff to come back to the office, really, like, I can ask Max for help. I say, okay, count the amount of monitors, make sure they work, and then tell me I want 20 workstation. Do we miss any computer? Do we miss any screen? And within really 5 minutes, I'm going to email my contact and say, but I need 4 monitors and 2 computers. You know, it's that dumb. So But we always like, okay, but I'm gonna have to look at this. I'm gonna have to count the amount of blah. No, it never ends. It never ends. You spend more time thinking about what you have to do than doing it.
Yeah. I've developed a better. I spent more time developing a new system so that when my computer is at maximum or like a maximum efficiency, like I actually reduce the amount of storage I have, then I have a really good system.
And you know why we do that? Because we feel good, we feel productive, because we spend time doing something that brings fuck all result.
Yeah.
And
it's not in the 80%. Like it does bring a result, but not the biggest.
Here's an example of people that don't do things to bring result. For example, I get tons of messages on LinkedIn with solicitation, right? I'm sure some people get really good result with that, but on average, I'm guaranteeing you that no one's getting any result with that. But you know what? They feel productive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A business developer that's pinging so many people on LinkedIn says, well, I did 200 people today.
I remember doing that.
Oh, you did?
I was in sales before I went to content creation. So I remember I was one of those guys, but we got metriced on how many people so we were incentivized just to.
It's crazy.
To do it. But it is. I rarely got bounce back because it's not authentic. It's not real.
It's not authentic. It's not well. It's not done well. There's no structured follow up. It's not personalized. There's no report that is being created.
I would search for like 2-3 minutes on the person, find one fact I can just plug in to make it seem personal. And this is real, by the way. I'll be completely honest. Like I was, in my early 20s, fresh out of college, wanted to be a salesman, but now I'm in a field that I really love, but that's what we did, and we got incentivized for that, right? And I felt super productive, and I was always hitting my metrics. Yep. But man, like there's so much better ways to build relationships.
I'd rather someone spending time on 5 meaningful calls with pre-researched, screen, and the person's gonna call someone with information. And have good stuff to create a rapport with that person. I'd rather have someone doing 5 of these a day than having someone doing 100 calls or messages or stupid shit like that. And so that thing we hear about working smart, working a lot, working at
smarter, not harder, kind of thing.
It's a bit of that, except that you can. It's not black and white. You can do kind of both. You can work a lot, but work much more. Yeah,
it's a balance. There's times where I have to focus heavy on mental, because the thing about video editing is that sometimes it's very repetitive. Sometimes it's like for the type of content we do, right? I know I have a process in my mind, and I know what to do with it, and I could do it like with my eyes closed, But then there's projects where it's like very creative and it's different, and, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's like it's so funny how we got here, eh?
because it's just not me to basically saying, like I said at the beginning, that we're gonna make this 20 minutes piece of content that's going to be telling you exactly what you should be doing. Everyone's different. The only thing I'm hoping with this is that that's going to make someone reflect or ask him herself some questions. So maybe, is it true that I could be delegating a little bit of my things, during a day? Everyone can delegate something, even an employee.
What I like too about our conversation is that we're not just talking about one aspect of our life. We're talking about our life, right? Mm-hmm. Looking at time as your life. And the more you look at, because when I look at my me being a creative, I look at creative in buckets.
Yep.
But still creative. How much time I need to spend creating is important to me for business and for personal. how much time in a week I want to create for myself versus for my business. Both are two different major things, but involves time. And everything we're talking about auditing, removing friction, about letting go of the perception, 80-20 rule, all these concepts, and I didn't even mention them all, help with optimizing your time. And whether you're a structured person like me, I do like that. I wrote all the points that you have here so that I know when I'm editing that I don't have to remember back to, what did he say?
But that's just working smart. That's not being structured and like you're saving time, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's because I don't want to, because I have to go back and review it. And if I didn't write this down, I'd have to look at it with a fine-tuned comb and spend half of my day just reviewing one video to find all the clips. Exactly.
Right? It's way more simple than we think. It is. It's just that we have those preconceived things in our mind about how things should be, what should I be working on, what I can't delegate, what I have no choice to do. There's someone I've been seeing often on a weekly basis, and I would hear this person always saying, I'm so busy, working on Sundays, working on Saturdays. Are you maybe escaping your personal life that you hate? Because I know that person hates his or her personal life, It's a possibility. I'm not saying that I'm a psychiatrist and I'm able to mention that, to say that for sure.
Yeah, we're not life coaches, right?
No, I'm just questioning it. Yeah. Is it possible that it's an excuse for you to escape? Is it possible that you like to scream to everyone that you're so busy because it makes you significant? It's a possibility. I'm not judging you. It's a possibility.
No, you're being honest about the questions people should be asking themselves. There's no judgment here. There's no judgment between us and anyone listening or watching. It's 100%. This is what you've learned. Well,
last podcast we mentioned asking yourself many whys. So why? If you take someone, for example, that doesn't feel that he or she can delegate more. Okay, cool. Why do you feel this way? Well, because I already delegated everything. But why do you think that you delegated already everything? Because only all of the things I'm doing, only me can do it. Why do you feel this way?
That's a good structure to ask, honestly. It's very smart, and like that advice helped me get a personal trainer now that's freed up a lot of my time, actually, because I was very, just to be honest, like I was so stressed about my fitness.
It's funny because I'm gonna call that person my psyche/mind coach that I'm meeting every week, and I was talking with him this week actually about that podcast we did and the mini whys and all of that. And I said, and about this challenge I'm having, if I apply it, and he was not even talking to me. And I was just explaining this and said, and about this, if I say why I feel this way, and then, because of, and then why I feel, and as I was saying it, it just popped up in my mind why I was feeling in a certain way. I did not even had to go to the fifth one. After the third, I already knew what would be the fifth answer. I'm like, all right, okay, never mind. I got my answer.
So this is a good, actually, we can apply this to time management. Yeah. Why are you so busy?
Yeah. Why are you
I have so much to do?
Okay, but why do you have so much to do? Because Joe and Matthew and blah, they're bombarding me with requests but why do they do that? Because they're so not resourceful. They cannot figure out shit on their own. But why? Because someone, their coach, their trainer, their lead, their whatever, is not helping them. You just got your answer. That's why they're, pissing you off. You don't have to.
Mm.
You know, if I go back like post-COVID, pre-COVID, and say, but why am I so busy? Because we have 40 people in the office and everyone has something for me. Everyone needs me.
Yep.
But why do they need you? Well, because I have the answers most of the time. I can help. It's fast and okay, interesting. But why is that fast? And why can they figure it out themselves? Because it's faster to come see me. Well, that's not an answer, right?
I have to think twice about coming to you. Then okay, why? Let me try to figure this out. I always do that every time. I'm like, before I go to Raph, I have to put in I have to try this.
Yeah.
I don't just go to Raph because when I first started, I'll admit I just went to you. But
I've-
now I actually go. It's like no.
I think it's with you that I did something. I was going to say I did that with someone, but as you're saying this, and maybe I did, maybe that was you. I'm not sure, but at some point I did something with someone that I knew was, but I'm not sure if it's you. To be honest, it's possible, but I'm not sure.
I
So-
could have been a factor. Could have been a
Maybe.
factor.
So I remember trying something with someone, and what I did is I knew this person would figure out on his own, but would always come to me like first. The first reaction was, "Hey Raph, hey Raph, hey Raph." And I remember trying and say, "You know what? I'm gonna say I'm busy." And I'm gonna let that person.
You're giving me the biggest flashback right now. I'm just like, fuck that. Son
And
of a
I said I'm gonna let that person stare for a while and see if he can figure out the answer. And half an hour later, I said, "So what's the issue?" It's fine. I found it. And it happened many times. I'm not sure that it's you, but seeing your reaction, that might be you. But I did that.
might have been just a factor because I do remember when I first started, and you're learning a lot, right? It's very common, but yeah, it became a habit, and I was like, oh, I gotta, and certain things like I'm not afraid to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say I don't know how to do this, help me. But yeah, like now I know that if I gave it my all, then there's a reason when I'm coming to you, right? And now I come to you a lot less after 2 years,
And what happened to me at that time for those years are totally my fault because I wanted to help. And I've been here for so long, so I knew pretty much everything in the business, in the company, and where our shit and how to solve whatever issue. And I never wanted to say no. So I created the problem myself. What else are you creating in your own life on your own, by your own fault, that loads your schedule massively during the day?
So Raph is saying, say no, and that's how you save time.
Well, oh boy, you get me started on a side subject.
It might be a different podcast.
But I remember I did watch and listen a lot of podcasts from Tim Ferris. And that's
a really good one for time management.
And I've heard
the 4-hour work week, right?
Yeah. Well, he wrote that book, but the problem is people are picturing like just looking at the book and the title, you're like, okay, I'm going to work 4 hours a week. That's not what he means. I've read it 3 times, and that's not the purpose of that book.
No, you're not actually working 4 hours. It's just a catchy title. It's a catchy title.
Exactly. But there's something very, very interesting that I've learned from him and from his guests is about saying no. And you can say no at so many places in your life. Sometimes when someone asks you something and you don't feel like doing it, but you're afraid to say no.
All the time.
Exactly.
I was raised like my family is a very giving family, and I remember them to this day still saying yes to things that they really don't want to do.
Exactly.
And people who are not nice, to be honest, just not genuinely like people we would want to hang out with.
So I've learned the say no thing about in his podcast, and it's crazy the amount of stress you're gonna save and the amount of time you're gonna save by saying no's.
although we've talked about a lot of things, talk about fitness and development and entrepreneurship, it is all around the time that we spend and how
priorities.
what we spend it on.
And priorities, but well, there's a few examples that comes to mind about Tony, where someone asked him for a favor in 3 months, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem," and
That was a good Tony.
yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, great," and then the week before, so holy shit, that's next week, and then he, all right, okay, I have to do it. I committed, and I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it, and then you just ate the moment, and honestly, you could have done something else during that day, if you do that many times a year, that's a lot of days that you could be saving. And honestly, you don't have to do those things. And so I'm generally now, most of the time, if not all of the time, when I say yes to something, it's because I want to help or I want to do it. If I say no, I say no. There's nothing wrong with saying no.
And trust me, he says no.
Well, if I get a text from an employee, say, could you, spare some time for me, and I need help with blah, 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 whatever. If I know there's another solution and I don't want to do it, I'm saying, well, maybe talk with blah, or it's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. But I don't feel bad of saying no anymore.
Yeah.
Especially on when you get an invite to something like weddings, or...
We don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole.
But if I don't want to go, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do it just to please someone.
Yeah.
If I'm showing up somewhere, it's because I really want to do it.
Yeah. I think as I get older, too, I realize I'm putting myself first a lot more.
Exactly.
And realizing that if I'm my best, I will give my best to... It's my life, and I'll give my best to my partner, to my stepdaughter, to my work, to my passion, But if I am sacrificing my time, then I'm tired, can't do the things I love, and it's like a vicious cycle.
Yep. Totally. There's no, I'm not gonna mention this, but I had something else, but it slipped off of my mind. And
we've been doing this for an hour. It's probably
no, that's fine. I have juice, but I
do
still
some push-ups in between. Get the pump going.
That would be funny. After before each 30 minutes of the recording, you need to stop and do some push-ups and wake up.
I did chest today, so it's a little sore, but I could do a few,
Oh, I was good today. Yeah. Anyway, I forgot what I wanted to say, but it's not important.
So let's wrap this up. Let's kind of conclude this time management discussion with a quick little summary, a last minute. What do you want to leave our audience if they've made it this far, watching or listening? Thank you. But any last minute kind of, it doesn't have to be advice, but just thoughts after our conversation.
It's simple and complicated. I would say give yourself the permission to be as open-minded as possible and as truthful as possible with yourself. Meaning... you need to remove for a moment from your mind all the preconceived rules and standards about productivity, about how you should be doing tasks and all of that. Remove this from your mind and just think about yourself. Because, and don't read too much and don't try to learn too much about that. It's just going to confuse you even more. That's one of my biggest problem with all the content that I've consumed, is that I got so confused.
Yeah.
To a point where that in the past year I pretty much did not consume content.
It's funny, like preparing for this and then knowing myself, I'm a self-taught creative, and so I love YouTube, but it's also the thing that, like, I spend a lot of time on it because I'm going in to learn something, but it's very easy to get sidetracked, right? And my last point, what I'm learning from this is that I always look for the hacks. I'm great at searching things like, okay, quick fix, hack this.
Yeah.
But what I'm learning is that we all kind of know deep down what we need to do, and it's having that honest conversation with ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And not like for me and personally, what I'm learning from this from you is like, you don't have to do it yourself, right? Back to the first point, I think the biggest point, the 80-20 rule. What is like, that's why I hired someone to help me with my fitness, because I was spending too much time trying to become a fitness person when I can hire someone to make the workout plan for me. I don't have to stress about it. I show up, I give it my all, and I get the results.
And
right?
if you feel that you need to do that research and all that work yourself because you want to learn, well, guess what? You can learn from that person.
It's true. Well, yeah, if I was interested in becoming a certified personal trainer, I mean,
even for your own knowledge, like if someone is like, that's been one of my weakness is trying to learn everything on my own, whether it's from nutrition or training or psychology and body language reading. And I did learn a lot of different things. Was it needed all the time? Probably not. Probably not. But in terms of when I was saying that in the past year, I pretty much did not listen much or watch much content. Before, I would be a serial content consumer. Like every single day I would come to the office, I would have a podcast on my way, on my commute in, and a podcast on my commute out.
Yeah, I was the exact same.
And the problem is, I realized that you need days of digesting whatever you're going to be listening or watching.
My girlfriend makes fun of me because I will read a chapter and then I'll like go back and reread it, because I'm a person that a chapter is sometimes 5 pages, like not even a lot of reading, but I find it so valuable that I go back and I highlight and I circle, I make notes, and so the time that I read is like I'm trying to really digest it versus just read it from cover to cover, and then what do I gain out of that, right?
So you said if I had an advice to give, well, if you're like me and you're consuming a lot of content or books or videos and about learn how to be more efficient, well, stop for a day or two, then pick one, just one. If it's a podcast or a video or a 20 minutes video, whatever it is, go for it, watch, read, or listen to it, and then wait a week before consuming anything else. Just let steer what you just got as information. You know that today, like if you go in like 60, 70 years ago, people would get their information in the newspaper, right? And I remember, and that was like 10 years ago, I've saw that. So today I'm scared to look at it, but the amount of information we're getting today is like we're consuming dozens of newspapers a day.
Yeah.
In one day. Like we're not made this way. We're not able to process all of that information. Many times I did watch a podcast on a video or listen on Spotify, let's say my podcast of the morning on my commute, and the next day I don't even remember what I've listened.
Yeah.
What's the point there? Then it becomes just an entertainment, distraction.
Time. So again, eating up the time, right, that you could spend doing something else. Not saying you shouldn't listen to podcasts, but yeah, limiting the
Let it process. Let it process in your mind.
Yeah.
Because you're being counterproductive.
Yeah.
More you consume, more counterproductive you're going to be.
And hey, if you guys have any questions about this, I mean, Raph and I are all over social media, so you can send us a private message or the Simply PHP, any social media, you can send us a message and we'll get back to you. We'll, if you have questions, maybe we'll make a second episode or we can answer them right there. We're happy to help you guys with this because Raph's been doing this from a business context for a long time, and he's actually had a lot of experience from before this business administration stuff, so he knows a lot about this. And so I'm just really happy. I learned a lot from our conversation, and without further ado, I think it's time probably to wrap it up
Yeah.
because we could go on forever.
Yeah, and I would be more than happy if ever we have questions to just go live and do a live Q&A about that.
Yeah.
You know.
So comment your questions below. If you're listening to this, you can write a review. If you're watching this, you can write comments, whatever. But don't be afraid. We're very open and honest, and we'll try to help. That's why we're here, right, Raph?
Yep. That's it.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Simply PHP Unscripted podcast. My name is Kyler Miles, and this is my lovely
Raph.
guest, business owner, Raph. Thank you guys so much. Take care.